We're live. Yay. Alrighty. Welcome everybody to Satsang today. And this is Satsang, which means communion with truth. And the word truth and the word being in Sanskrit are the same words. When it refers to truth, it doesn't refer to an intellectual truth. It refers to the most self-evident truth there is, and that is your own being. And of all the things that human beings regard as true, there's only one truth that you don't need to check out with anyone else. Matter of fact, you can't, because in order to verify your own existence, for somebody else to verify it, you've got to ask them, and you've got to be there first. This sense of being is the doorway. Every sage has said that. Papaji would say, keep quiet. Ramana Maharshi would say, it's silence. And what's in that silence? It doesn't mean empty-headedness. It doesn't mean just keeping your mouth shut, like at a silent retreat or something. It means focusing your attention on that which is there prior to any thought, any reasoning, any concept, any idea. It's before any reasoning or concept or idea can appear, you have to be there first. So prior to any experience is you. This is the true meaning of Sat. And Satsang is the communion with yourself. Anytime your attention goes to that simple, direct sense of being, you're in Satsang. And it is that simple. If I ask you, do you exist? I'm sure everybody here would answer yes. Okay? And I would simply say, how do you know? And to answer that question puts you in touch with a completely different way of knowing. It's just an intuitive, spontaneous, you just know. Because you just are. And this is the true non-duality, is that your being and the knowing of your being are not two. Knowing and being are one. That knowing of yourself is yourself. And the spiritual path, which is really not much of a path, because how do you make a path to yourself, right? How do you get up and walk over to yourself? The path is really cutting through all of the beliefs that assume that the truth, the true self, the reality God, is something separate from yourself. And that's purely conceptual. It's false knowledge. It's an idea believed, and having believed it, it forms all sorts of other thoughts and feelings and experiences that seem to conform to that idea, but it is just an idea. That idea creates a kind of a veil over perception, and so you have the experience of being a separate self, when in fact you're not. This is the wonder, the mystery of consciousness, is that it literally creates in experience, in perception, not in reality. It can't create it in reality, because the reality is you are consciousness. But it creates an image in the mind of someone having the experience of being separate. And then the same consciousness that created it identifies with it, and then gets kind of lost in it. But it doesn't change the truth. And eventually, you get tired of it, maybe 1,000 lifetimes, but eventually, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of Shiva's wheel. It's time to get off. But it can take a little bit to come back out of the illusion, out of samsara, to the reality of your being, which is nirvana. That's what satsang is about. This communion with that simple, self-evident fact, I am. I really am. I am what is. This really is. I really am. Everything else is an appearance that's always referring back to that I. That's what it's meant when it says the world is an illusion. It means that what you are experiencing of the world is a direct reflection of who you think you are. Because you, that sense you hold of yourself, is the reference for everything else. I mean, there's no tall without short, right? If everything is tall, then tall has no meaning, right? So, are you short, tall, medium? None of the above. That's only in contrast with something else. What you are, what you just are, what you are. And so this I becomes the reference point by which everything else is assessed, which means you don't see it as it is. You see it in relation to this I. But that I is just a concept. The true I is that sense of being. Consciousness and the self are one. I guess I've gone off enough on that, huh? Let me just say hello to everyone. And computer's sitting over on this side now, so if I'm looking over here, I'm not trying to ignore you. But it's open for questions, my friend. Let's see. October, Paul. Hey, sir. How are you? Portland, Maine. We got John in Glasgow, Scotland. Hendrik in the south of Germany. Rosario in Spain. Ursula in Portugal. Laura in the UK. David and Elaine also in southeast England. Ava in Poland. Snezalea in Serbia. Oh my goodness. Roberto. Oh, so good you're here, Roberto. Christine. Hi, Christine. Where are you, Christine? Russell is in Durban. Durban is in South Africa, right, Russell? Did I get that? Remember that correctly? Anja is in Germany. Robert in Nevada. Hey, somebody in the U.S. with me. Dorte in Denmark. Hello, hello, hello. Jesse. Hi, Jesse. Gathers from Heather in Glen Mills, Pennsylvania. Jesse, which is actually Heather, right? Yes. Oh, yeah, right, Heather. Penny. Hi, Penny. Who's in Canada. And Kaufman. Good to have you back this week. Oh, yeah, that's right. I got a flat tire on my way here last week. And fortunately, it is a beautiful day today that I can sit outside. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to have. Wow. Liza, hola, from the East Coast. October, is the second non-dual awakening after the first awakening permanent? Are those beyond karma after the first awakening or the second? Well, you know, there's the absolute awakening, the ultimate, which is when all of the seeds of the egoic mind or the sense of a separate self that have persisted through every single lifetime are finally burnt up, and the sense of a separate self arises no more. That is actually the awakening. It's the final curtain. Now, prior to that, and in that moment, you see that everything prior to that, all experience, even the experience of 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 awakenings, has been part of the dream. Even that awakening is in the dream. The ultimate awakening is seen that there's never been a sleeping or awakening. Every last bit of it was a dream. Now, in terms of our experience on the spiritual path, it's very rare in anyone's life, in all of history, that has happened in an instant. There's been a few people like a Ron Maharshi, and there's a Steve Jourdain that I know of. If you listen to the stories of the sages or of Buddha, they were not this sudden boom and it's all done. There was quite a bit leading up to it for Siddhartha, who then became known as the Buddha, um, and everyone, and most of us will have a series of what we can call awakening or enlightenment experiences, although enlightenment is not experience. But it is a sense when suddenly the veil just comes down and there's just this direct experience of who you really are. And it's almost impossible to put into words. Well, it is impossible to actually put into words, although stupid people like me keep trying. Really, just to help direct attention in such a way that the likelihood of these of awakening experiences can happen, and that veil becomes more and more pierced. And so you can have many of them, finally leading up to the definitive awakening. And that's even when an awakening is settled in to where you're not fooled anymore. But the ego continues to arise, get you for a second. A feeling of anger or something might come up, but it doesn't stick. There's nobody there for it to stick to. I keep checking everything, making sure making sure everybody is still hearing me. I got all my little buttons and dials here. Oops, channel 1. Oh, that's just that's okay. I just bring the volume down a bit. So what's actually happening when there's an awakening and then it seems like you fall back into the dream? It's kind of like the clouds in the sky. Imagine you lived someplace that was always overcast, right? It was always just gray. You would assume that was the sky. If you didn't know any better, you would assume, oh, the sky is gray. And then if all of a sudden some little opening would happen, so the clouds would disperse in a place and this blue would shine through, right? You'd think of it as kind of this blue hole in the sky, right? And then it would close back up again. But now if something had opened up and you actually went up and looked at it, went through it, you thought you were going to examine it, and you went right through it, and all of a sudden you're on top of the clouds. And you see that it's the sky that's blue, and the clouds are blocking that. Awakening's kind of like that. This thing opens up, you see something, it closes back up, and then you're seeing what you experienced from the perspective of what you've normally regarded as being the way it is. But in fact, what has happened is the clouds have parted, and you've seen the sky for what it is, but then the clouds have moved back in again. Now you can either see that as I had an awakening experience, or you can see it as my reality is I'm awake, and it's being obscured by clouds. Same phenomena, very different way of looking at it. The latter way of looking at it is what you call samsara. The prior way is nirvana. And if that's the case, then the clouds no longer distract you. You know the sky is there whether you see it or not. And that sense of knowing permeates the entire system and literally dissolves the clouds. They just start to dissipate because they don't have your belief in them anymore. They don't have your attention. They don't have the same authority and power. You're not trying to get rid of the clouds because you know what they are. You're just waiting for them to dissipate. Patiently, because you know the sky is there. Doesn't matter then how long the clouds are there for. Doesn't matter what comes up. You recognize that you're actually already there whether you see it or not. Does that answer it for you, Paul? Oh boy. Does that answer it for you, my friend? P.S. in Germany. Luca from Slovenia. Look, I think you've been here once before, have you? Or is this your first time? I seem to remember you. Um, Sue in South Africa. Hello, Sue. Michael. Love you, love you, love you. Greetings from Germany. Hi, Michael. um, Daryl Sanders. Hello from from Maryland. A beautiful early fall day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here. And we actually had, last Monday was 95. And on Wednesday, it went to 32 and snowed. I woke up in the morning to shivering and snow. It was pretty fun of it. Now it's back in the 70s, just beautiful here, so I can sit outside again for a while. Christine is in the Netherlands, but from Germany. Well, wonderful, wonderful. Sasha, hi GP. Lovely to see you with another great question. My question is, if it's satsang, with another great satsang, my question is watching without the reaction the only way to find the real self? No. Uh, no. Watching, the goal of watching isn't to not react. You're going to try to force, that's trying to force the nervous system, which is a reactive mechanism, to not do what it was designed to do, and that's react. The watching is watching the reactions itself. And that watching it serves two purposes. One of which, one is it, it begins to separate you from the conditioning of the nervous system. So you begin to see that you are not your conditioning. And that the cause of all of our suffering and problems is that we have identified ourselves with what in fact is nothing more than the conditioned reactions and responses of the nervous system that was trained into those conditioned patterns simply by circumstances, by the way you were raised, by your culture, gender, race, all of those things compounded, family history, the way your parents thought. The nervous system simply conformed itself to survive in that environment. And then as we became more aware of being a self, we identified with that conditioning. So to say I'm going to watch it without reacting, it's like saying I'm going to stand in the wind without getting my hair mussed. It's not going to happen, right? Because that's the nature of it. The nature of the hair is to move with the wind. The nature of the nervous system is to react to things. So the watching isn't to conquer the reaction. It is to see the reaction as a reaction and not myself. Oddly enough, paradoxically enough, that as you do that, you actually do get dominion over the reactions. And because the reactions are not engaging you in them, either attachment to it or aversion to it, trying to push it away or resist it, they lose their strength. And the reactive patterns of the nervous system begin to dissipate because because the nervous system is now seeing that it's in a very different environment. It's not in the same environment in which the conditioning took place. And so it begins to adapt itself to this new environment, which is the witness. Expansive, loving, compassionate, safe. Okay? Now, to take that further, to find the real self, this is a step, because if I'm not my conditioning, which I was totally identified with, which means I'm not my mind, I'm not this flow of thoughts, I'm not these feelings in the body, I'm not the sensations of the body, what am I? And now attention begins to turn away from all of the things that it had been identified with, mostly thoughts, right? And begins to try to look for the self that is not a thought, that is not an emotion, and is not a sensation. And because it's not an emotion or a sensation or a thought, and because the three of those are the sum total of all experience, we begin to realize that to know myself as I really am, I can refer to absolutely nothing external. And what am I left with? The sense of my own being. just the sense of being. Pure, completely unrelated to or not unreferenced by anything external, which is my pure, unfiltered, uninterpreted experience of myself. So remember, the finding of myself, it's not like I can go find it like I can find my car or a friend, right? Because I am that self. It's a turning within, but ultimately, because you're the one looking, you cannot see yourself. You cannot find yourself because you are yourself. So all the finding stops. All the seeking stops. Not because I say, I'm going to stop seeking now, but because you know it's not doing anything. Attention, when it has turned inward, which really means it's turned away from everything that it can identify as being perceived. Because if it's perceived, however subtle, and there's nothing more subtle than a thought or a feeling, there's still something there perceiving it. So it is still, in a very real sense, external. It's very subtle, but it's not me. It's just the inward path is neti. It is the path, or in Christian mysticism it's referred to via negativa. It is, because I can't say what I am, I have to simply peel away everything that I'm not. And then what remains? What remains is simply the sense of your own being. And it can't be put into words. It doesn't have a form, it doesn't have a gender, doesn't have beliefs. It's self-evident, because obviously it's what's hearing my words right now. It is consciousness itself. It is not a thing that I discover. And so it is that simple sense of knowing you are is the self. That's you. That's you without any reference to anything other than your direct experience of yourself. No name, no form, no history, no memory, no future, no aspirations, no past or future, nothing. Just you, right here, right now. Now that inward track is enhanced when you recognize that all the things you had identified as yourself before are simply the functions of life. They're the functions of the body, the functions of the nervous system. They're not an entity in and of themselves. They're not you. They're simply the way this particular form happened to be programmed. This energy got programmed into this form that happened to be human. It could have been programmed in a form like this computer or the tree over there, right? It didn't necessarily have to be into this. So that's just the condition. That's just life, which is the way experience appears. But you, who are aware of all experience, are not conditioning. You're not a form. You're not made of energy. You're not made of anything. You are what everything is made of. You simply are. So the path, for lack of a better word, is simply I can't be anything that I perceive. So nothing I could perceive can be me, which means I cannot perceive myself. I simply know that I am. And that knowing that I am is the I am. Did I explain that well enough for you? Is that helpful, Sasha? Very good question. Russell says, GP, you're right. Durban is in South Africa. I remembered. Good. Boy. Let's see. Alessandra, hello. Hello. Tesqua, namaste to you. October, how do you know when you're ready to teach? It's not a decision the mind makes, right? It's got this little criteria. Go, okay, let's check. Okay, I'm ready to teach. Right? If the opportunity arises for you to teach, the words show up. and you recognize that the words were very appropriate for that moment, the teaching has happened. Right? If it happens consistently enough, you can be pretty confident that it's happening. Right? So confident enough that you can schedule it and do it every week. but but it, with myself, it just happened. Right? Early on, I was barely out of my teens, and questions would come up and the answers would be there. Now, I didn't jump into being a teacher because it was happening, but it was happening. Even when I was doing other things, and I did a lot of other things. I had businesses, I had some that worked, some that didn't, a lot of odd jobs for a very long time, everything from being a janitor to being a mailman. And so but it was just kind of happening. It was just always there because I always loved this. It was always, it was always the thing that most engaged me. Right? And I found that when I understood something, really understood it in my heart, that the words to explain it or to tell somebody else about it would appear. They would just be there. And over time, I began to be sensitive as to whether or not those words would be received or not, and became more discriminating as to when I would say something and when I wouldn't. So it's not the kind of thing where am I ready now or am I not ready now? It'll just happen. And it's kind of happening. If there is a desire to teach, you have to cherish the desire. Right? And obviously, whenever we discover something as magnificent and as profound as the non-dual insight, we want to share it, right? I mean, it's just natural. If something great happens to you, what do? You want to call a friend. You want to tell your loved ones, look what happened. This is great. Isn't this great? We want to share it. It's so natural to us. Okay? But as everybody, as we are growing, the ego loves to position itself, right, as anything, right? So if I can now be the spiritual teacher, the ego will be happy to become the spiritual teacher, right? And so now I'm a teacher, right? So now I walk around, I go to Walmart wearing ochre robes. So there is a bit of discrimination that takes place because until that day when it all falls away and you are the Buddha, the ego is going to be there trying to reassert itself. And you've probably seen it happening. I mean, when you have a deep awakening experience, a deep piercing insight, you'll notice how almost immediately the ego tries to reform itself. Now, this happens not just in spiritual insights, a personal development, there's some kind of breakthrough or aha moment. Right? Immediately, the ego wants to now reform again. This is an identity now based on my new insight, right? So now I don't think of myself as a failure. I've just had this insight, and now I think of myself as a success. I'm a success, and I put little post-its on my mirror to remind me of success. I'm lovable and all that, which is great. I'm not diminishing it, but just notice that the moment that happens, immediately the nervous system wants to create a new sense of identity. And now I'm going to become that. And the moment I become anything, I have put myself in the box. Right? Because the reality is I am no one and nothing at all. Which leaves me completely and totally free to be teaching without being the teacher. Right? The teaching can just happen. And the teaching will happen. But there's no teacher. As Buddha put it, he said, there's a road, there's a walking on the road, but there's no traveler. There's the teaching, and there's the teaching of the teachings, but there's no teacher. There's simply the spontaneous arising of the teaching that takes the form of what will look like a teacher, but the teacher is just an appearance. There is no teacher. There's only the teaching. So really cherish not the desire to teach, but the desire for everyone to share in the depth and the beauty of what you've come to see. Everybody needs to see it because it's the truth for them too. And that'll guide you. And it'll just happen. You won't have to ask. But there have been on occasions people who've wanted to teach, and I've had private sessions with them to try to sort it out, right? Because it was happening, but they weren't sure about their own ego. I'm happy to do that. Right? So far, I'm happy to say everyone who's done that, I've just given them a yes, please, by all means, because there was so much heart in it. I wasn't worried about the ego interfering. So wonderful. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Paul. Oops. Sorry. I keep hitting wrong buttons. Didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to put your face in public, Paul. But if you're going to teach, get used to it. Get used to negative comments, too. There's been just a whole slew. I don't know where it came from the last couple of weeks. Just I guess there's more people watching me because I'm getting more people telling me. A couple that were so nasty. There was nothing in them at all. Just absolute. Just for the first time ever, I actually blocked and deleted people because there was no. They weren't even engaging. They were just nasty. David Elaine, is the I am, which J. Krishnamurti called the first and last portal, synonymous with the sense of being? Or does the I am arise out of the sense of being? This being the awareness by which the I am is known. Oh boy, okay, well, you guys have gone to this most subtle place. I didn't go there when I was talking a minute ago because it is the portal. The sense of I am is the portal. Because when you have completely withdrawn attention to everything external, and then you see how deeply inward the external is, and that, I mean, just not withdrawing from the world and going to a cave, that's one place, but then to withdraw from thoughts, to see that I'm not my thoughts, that I'm seeing my thoughts, which means I'm something other than thought. But then it does get down to this very subtle place, which is the sense of being. Now that sense of just being, nobody in particular, is the end of much, if not all, of suffering. But if you're so inclined, you'll notice that even that sense of being, which is as subtle as you can get, is being perceived by something else. Because even the sense of being is an experience, the subtlest of all experiences. And for that sense of being to be there, you had to be there first. So the pure absolute being cannot be perceived at all. Beyond that line, no one and nothing can go. There's nothing there but you, the infinite, indescribable, irreducible you. And obviously, the sense of being has to arise out of pure being. But pure being cannot be described. I can point you all the way back to that which is perceiving everything else, but I can't point you to you because you can't be perceived. And so you really reach the end of the road. There's no further you can go. This is the door to just stand in front of and knock on. And Nisargadatta referred to that. I read it again just the other day. I ran across it when he said to just put your attention on the sense of being, to just be, on that sense of I am. And then notice that there is something aware of that sense of I am. And that something is obviously you that is aware of it. That you, imperceivable, and yet so obvious, that's as far as you can go. That is the end of practice. Out of that will arise self-realization. And Ramana Maharshi referred to that as well. It's where the who am I question takes you, because it can't be answered. There's no answer to who you are. But that who am I is asking now that I that is aware even of the sense of being. Who am I? Because who else is aware of that sense of being if it's not you? And here, every version of you, every thought of you, every concept of you, every memory of you is no longer valid. It's no longer relevant. It's just the you that is aware of everything else. Who am I? At that point, the question has done its job. It's taken you right to the door. There's nothing more you can do, because the you that would do anything can't go past that door. Does that answer it for you, Dave? And or Aileen? I'm not quite sure who's asking the questions, but you are together. You are a couple. You're one, so it's beautiful. Is that answering it for you? Beautifully answered. Thank you, said October. Oh, good. David. Hello, David. Gee, your use of the term nervous system has been so helpful to me. It made it possible to be an impartial observer. I had previously used the term ego when referring to the source of pain. Yes, and I do, because the nervous system it's just much more, it's a system, right? It's much more just kind of a function, whereas the ego seems to have teeth in it. It seems to be like a thing, right? But the ego is nothing more than the mind projecting the sense of self onto the nervous system, which is just a bunch of functions. You take the ego out of it, and it becomes more like an organic robot, right? A robot, even a very sophisticated robot, is not sentient. It doesn't have a sense of self. It's not too far in the distant future where there will be, cyborgs, right? There will be very human-like robots, and they will respond as if they're human. They'll have all the human emotions, right? But there's nobody there. There's nothing conscious. The nervous system is that. There's nothing sentient there. It's not a conscious entity. It is an incredibly complex functioning. You, who are consciousness, which are sentient and are an entity, project upon it a sense of self. Just the way, when we start meeting robots who are so human-like we can't tell the difference, we will project conscious sentience on them, even though there isn't any. And we do it on the nervous system. So when I use the term nervous system, and sometimes energy system, I'm pointing to a functioning, right? And what the ego is the idea that functioning is a self, that it's sentient, that it's an entity, which itself is nothing other than a function of the nervous system. So the ego isn't even a thing. It's not even a reality. I believe that idea of a self, and therefore it appears to me to be a self. But when you really master the meditation of saying, I am not my thoughts, and the ego is nothing but a thought, it's the thought of I. I'm not the feelings that feel as if I am that, nor am I the sensations. Then what is that I that is not any of that? And it really helps to remove the sense of there being some kind of an entity there. Because even the ego seems like this thing I've got to get rid of. But the ego is nothing but the nervous system. It's just another function of it, right? Which means it's nothing at all. There's nothing to get rid of. Right? People talk about killing the ego and destroying the ego. It's like, destroy what? It's like trying to destroy Bugs Bunny, right? You don't destroy it. How do you kill the ego? Because it was never alive in the first place. How do you kill a machine? Take a sledgehammer to the computer because you don't like it. Killing it. Why are you doing these things to me? It's not doing anything to you. There's nothing there, right? So you see through the ego. and that there was never anything there in the first place except you believed there were. And so, and that's how it actually dissolves. There was never anything there in the first place. And the only thing that has been there the entire time is you. So I'm glad that helps you, David. Me too, as I began to see that this is really how it worked. It was really quite a deliverance. Well, hello there. We have lots of crows around here. Magpies too. And hi there, currently undergoing a name change. GP, can't believe you're here. I am definitely here. Mary Sykes. Hello, Mary. David. However, it's such a... Oh, I didn't finish that. It's such a loaded term. Yeah, right. I finished your sentence before you did. The term nervous system helps realize there's no enemy within. Yeah, thanks is all yes, which is what I just went on about ad nauseum. Yeah, there is no enemy within. Right? It's just functioning. It's just the way the body-mind, which is the nervous system, happen to be programmed to function. And that's purely a matter of conditioning. When you see that, oh, there's nobody... That's really what I mean by the phrase original innocence. Nobody's to blame. It's nobody's fault. You know, it's not the water's fault if it gets poured into a particularly shaped jar, right? It will take the shape of that jar because it has to. That's its nature. But it's not its fault, right? If you take it and pour it into an old tire and into a shoe, it's not the fault of the water, right? And if the water thinks, oh my God, I'm a shoe, right? Well, no, you're not. You're just temporarily in that form. And the realization, you know, in personal development, self-help, and even a lot of spirituality, it's always pursuing a better form. I want to get out of the old shoe and into the beautiful vase, right? Oh, now I am a beautiful vase. But that's equally untrue. Yes, it's better, for sure. It's a much better container. You know, it's nicer to have a pretty body than an ugly one. But it's not you. Realizing that you're the water, you're formless, that this will conform to anything, and none of those are actually you. You begin to look to a very different place inside of you for the sense of, who am I? This I is formless. So no picture I have of myself, no idea I have of myself can possibly contain me. So now I can just drop completely thinking of myself in terms of a form. I am no form whatsoever, which simultaneously makes me all forms. Kind of way it works. Great. David, so good to see you. Let's see here. We just skipped ahead a lot. Luca, yes. I haven't watched you live for a long time, but I watch all your songs later. Awakening is the priority in my life, but the everyday stuff and other passions get me involved too much. Drop that thought. Right? The you is always separate from and witnessing the activity of everyday life. And so the one whose passions get it very attached and involved with everyday life is actually something else that you are witnessing. That self, that one, that person who is involved is actually part of the scene. You can describe this person who gets involved, can't you? It's a set of very defined qualities of that person that you are observing. So now take the I that's saying I'm getting involved, and bring it back to the witnessing, and watch all the feelings of getting involved, all the passions, all of the things you're talking about. Notice that they're perceptions, and that the I is never in it. At that point, you can actually enjoy being involved, right? Without feeling as if it's somehow taking away from your awakening. that somehow it is interfering with you. Because the awakening cannot be dependent upon circumstances, right? If it's dependent upon circumstances, then you're going to have to get rid of all these passions and involvements and things. Matter of fact, you'll have to stop living, right, in order to transcend them. But the real seeing is that you've never actually been in it. You've always been the witness of it. And that witness has never been stuck in it. That the one stuck in it is just a thought. So drop the idea that it's drawing me into it. Yeah. Attention is being drawn to it. Attention may be focused on it. But since you said you're interested in knowing who you are, the most important thing for you is to know who you are, then you bring your attention back here, don't you? Now, the witness, whether your attention is focused inward or it's focused outward, is that which is aware of what the attention is taking in ever anywhere other than right here? So if the attention is completely engaged in the world out here and doing all sorts of things, isn't the witness of that still right here? And if that attention then withdraws in meditation, turns away from all experience and thought and all, and is now looking inward, is that which is watching it now look inward not still in exactly the same place? Isn't that you? Awakening is to find that you have never been in that. You've never been sucked in. You've never been involved. You've been witnessing involvement and the mind creating a sense of self that is involved. So there's an involvement, there's involving, but there's nobody involved. All just an appearance in front of you, the conscious witness that is always witnessing, and that's always the position you're in. And I want you to just pay attention to that, because I'm not making it up. I'm not wanting you, I'm never in there. I want you to see it, right? That the place you're looking from never changes. That's you. So it's always something you are witnessing, right? So you're never stuck in there and have to somehow extricate yourself. The sense of being stuck there is a sense of identity, right? That is also being witnessed by that which is free of all identity. So you are always the self. And the self meaning you are always the conscious awareness. It's got a lot of questions for Satsang. Does that help, Luca? If not, please tell me. Or ask him. Yeah, please tell me, because this is a very fine point, and if I can get it through to you, boy, the freedom it will open up for you. Linus, the sky is a wonderful analogy. When the blue pops up, I make a subtle object or feeling out of it. How do I recognize that awakening is not an object, but my only reality? Right. Awakening is not it is not a happening. It's not a thing. Right? All right. Are you conscious of my words right now? That's it. The point of cognition, that which is actually aware, no matter what it's aware of, right? Forget any bit of content. Forget any ideas about the awakening or some kind of special experience or what it's supposed to mean. And put your attention all on the simple fact of your consciousness of everything else. And now turn attention away from what you're conscious of and try to see the consciousness itself. Can't do it, of course. You can't do it because it's not a form. If it's a form, it's something I'm conscious of. All form requires me to be conscious of it. But the consciousness that is conscious of it, that is the point of cognition, that which is actually hearing my words right now, seeing my face on the screen. That point of I see, I know, I am experiencing, that I am. You can't see it. And isn't this cognizing the only experience you actually ever have? Isn't that the only reality? Isn't that what you are always, no matter what the content is, which is constantly shifting, constantly changing, right? If it wasn't, there'd be no content. Isn't your cognition of the content always been the same? And hasn't it always been here? Well, that would kind of qualify it for the ultimate and the only reality of you. That which is cognizing, not what you're cognized, not what is being cognized. You can't find the awakening as an object. If you do, it will only be an experience. Reality is not an experience. It can't be. Experience is something defined, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. But the experiencing, it's changeless. It's timeless. Even time is perceived by it. So it's beyond time, it's beyond space. It's not a 12th dimensional master or anything like that, because that would be perceived. So it's dimensionless. So you are the awakening. This was the revelation. That's what the word Buddha means. The awakened one. Not someone who has awakened, but the awakened one with a capital N. You are the awakening. Just look. Do you ever experience anything else? In the experiencing. So subtle. Your attention goes on to the experiencing and not what is experienced. And then you find that the awakening is all that's ever been. That is what you are. The awakened one. The Buddha. Hello, Buddha. Contemporary classical guitar by Laird. Hey, Laird, greetings. I love you and the horse you rode in on. Thank you. Love this satsang. Faith from Algeria. Hello, Faith. Shane O'Flaherty. GP, sorry. Immediately I went in Irish accent. GP, remember me? I asked the question about always trying to feel good. Well, I took your advice, and now I naturally feel good and light, no burning out energy. Thank you, sir. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Some of the videos that I've done that had been more addressed on people just kind of improving their relationship with themselves, and not strictly non-dual, which I'll do. I'll step down and I'll bring it down a few notches to do that. And one of them, which is one of my most popular videos, is called Just Feel Good. Right? And it appeals to people of the metaphysics, the law of attraction crowd, and that sort of stuff. But beautifully, it's kind of me fishing. There are those that they catch the deeper spirit of it, and something deeper awakens. But a lot of people, that's all they've ever seen, and they think all I do is teach about, feeling good and money. It's funny. It's very funny. You're very welcome, Shane. Forgive me for saying your name in an Irish accent. Just can't help it. Rosalind Jean, you're stating the real truth. Thank you. Oh, beautiful. And you are the real truth, Jean. Rosalind, I mean. It is not something you know, it's what you are. You hear the words coming from me, and you recognize them as the truth because you are the truth, and you're recognizing yourself. This is the sweet beauty of it. Only truth can recognize truth. Believe me, if you read some of the nasty comments I got this week, not everybody recognizes truth. Only truth recognizes truth. And the ego can't recognize truth. So when you see something go, and you just know in your heart it's true, that's you. That's the real you. Remember, truth, reality, same thing. Sasha, thank you, GP, for your beautiful answer. Beautifully explained. Loved, Sasha. From UK. I see further down. You finished it. Hey, from Algeria, all love to you. All love to you, too. Laird said, when can we expect to hear your next piano piece? I really loved it. I have more. I've got a bunch of stuff. Believe it or not, 20 years ago, I recorded an album, a CD. Did it in a studio. It cost a lot of money. I had 22 musicians on it. I had a vocal producer, a producer. I had an engineer, the whole thing. I had a separate mastering engineer. And I actually sang on it. And I listened to it the other day, and I thought, wow, that's not as bad as I thought it was. I was a little embarrassed because I normally just do instrumentals. So I have a lot of music that I'm going to be releasing probably over the next couple of months. So I don't know which ones you've heard, but if you just go to my channel on right here, right where you are right now, I've got 3 or 4 pieces up there. I'll release some new ones. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I always loved music, and I still do. So, and I'm even going to make some albums, put them up for sale. I'm trying to figure out the technology to do it so it isn't too much work for me. To actually, because I've probably got about 5 albums worth of material that I could put out there and make a little money, help support Satsang. What do you think? Sue, as I learned what I am not and who I am, I feel quite dependent on you to help me find the way. Everything is being stripped away, and all the things that had meaning are losing it. Yes and no. Think of it as any kind of transformation, right? When you were a 10-year-old girl, you played with certain kinds of toys and the like, right? I don't know what they were, but they weren't the same ones you were at 7, and they certainly weren't the same stuff you were playing with at 15, right? That teddy bear that you couldn't go anywhere without, now is just sitting in the closet collecting dust, and if mom threw it in the bag and gave it to the Goodwill, you wouldn't even notice, right? It's just at this phase of life, when this is a direct conscious inquiry, we're aware of this transformation. It's not just happening really gradually as the 8-year-old becomes the 10-year-old, becomes the 14-year-old, right? That goes off to college and the like. All of these things happen without us knowing it. This kind of conscious inquiry, it starts happening and we're noticing it. We're like, things don't mean the same thing anymore, right? They are losing their meaning because the eyes through which they're being seen aren't the same anymore. The eye that is looking at them is not the same. So the meaning isn't going to be the same, right? Because the meaning's not in the thing, right? The meaning isn't in that crow. The meaning isn't in the bells that are sounding right now, right? Those meanings are me and my relationship with it. So when I change, the meaning's going to change. Okay? And this can feel very disorienting and a little bit confusing, right? But just remember, you did it, right? Think of the tumultuous change that took place when you went through puberty, when all of a sudden there's all these other feelings and things running through your body, and everything looks different now, right? The whole world is different. Right? I remember it very much when all of a sudden girls looked really different. It's like, whoa. Right? It was so fun that, you kind of dive right into it. You don't think of it, oh no, meaning is changing, right? It just happens so gradually you don't even notice, right? But this isn't happening gradually, and you're consciously participating in it. And so just go, oh yes, look, What's really happening is as the lesser meaning, the egoic meaning falls away, you're going to see things as they actually are. And the view is spectacular. Everything experienced, not as a memory, but as the direct right now experience. Not in reference to anything else, but as it is right here and now. That's an experience that is vivid, rich, right? So don't be concerned about it, and I'm happy to be helping you. Be here, be the little solid reference point for you, the non-reference point, so that you can, as you get your footing. That's part of the teacher's job. The ultimate job of the teacher is to get fired. You're fired. I don't need you anymore. Perfect. That's the point. Lovely, 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 lovely. Yes. Everything does get stripped away. But what can't be stripped away? Right? And if it can be stripped away, it can't be you, can it? If you can peel it away, it can't be you. Can't peel you away, right? So what's left? You. You as you really are. And that's the point. Once that has happened, all the rest of this can come back in. And it will come back in. And then you go from being nothing to being everything. But first you have to be nothing. Beautiful. Beautiful. Sasha. Thank you for your beautiful... Oh, right. Love from the UK. You're so welcome, Sasha. Faith. What is desire in the context of non-duality? Well, let's just kind of take a nice look at it. Is there any moment that is free of desire? Without desire, how long would life last? A couple days? Right? Without desire, we wouldn't eat, right? Certainly wouldn't have children, wouldn't do anything, right? I mean, all life would stop. For non-duality, it's how do we see things as they actually are, and then see them from the perspective of the self, and not from the perspective of a limited ego. To the ego, desire is something I must have to define myself. If I don't have it, I won't be happy. Right? I must fulfill my desires. Right? To the self, the non-dual context, desire is just another phenomenon of life. It's just something that we feel. And because the self is forever free, it doesn't mean there are no desires. Right? But desires are not personal. The desire arises, it falls away. The desire arises, maybe it fulfills itself, maybe it doesn't. My happiness does not depend upon it. My contentment doesn't depend upon it. The desire arises, maybe I'll indulge it, maybe I won't. Happy to see it come, happy to see it go. So there's no attachment to it, right? But to say that, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't exist, then there is no desire, so to get rid of desire, right? That's impossible, right? That's like saying when I'm enlightened, I stop breathing, right? Or the wind stops blowing. We see it as it is. Non-duality simply is the capacity to see things without a limited perspective, right? If I take a particular position on something, then I interpret everything I experience from the point of view of that perspective, right? Which means I now take all of life and I put it in a little box, right? But if I'm sitting at the place of not-to-ness, right, I'm now seeing everything as it actually is. And it's beautiful. It's simple. It's life. And without life, there's no experience, right? So the opposites, the play of things, the desire and the fulfillment, and from the point of view of non-duality, not-to-ness, that not-to-ness applies to everything. That means that the desire and fulfillment are two sides of the same coin, which means the fulfillment of a desire is in the desire itself. The desire arises from the fulfilled place, fulfills itself, in a manifestation of the fulfilled place, and then returns back to its essence, which is the infinite potential for everything. And so desire now becomes how you experience. It's the contrast of experience. I mean, it's it's the oneness of things doesn't mean there's not two-ness. It simply means that the not two-ness is the oneness. So you can't have desire without fulfillment, or fulfillment without a desire, right? With either one of those, neither exists. You can't have tall without short. You can't have male without female. Right? You can't have dark without light. You simply can't. They arise simultaneously, and therefore they are merging from the same place. They originate in the same place, and they manifest in form the unity that is all things. So the opposites and the oneness that is beyond all opposites are one. And there is no two. Or you could say the two and the one are actually one. Which is why in Sanskrit they don't use the word one or oneness. It's Advaita, not two. It's much more accurate. It's much more close to the truth. Because there's a sense when we say it's one, right? Then we think of it numerically. And then we think, oh, I'm just one and there's nothing else, right? No, it means that the everything else is the one. Non-duality, not two-ness. Advaita, not two, not divided. And so everything is seen within this unity. But how can the unity be seen if there aren't the opposites to give expression to the unity? You can't have music without a song. And you can't have a song without music. You can't separate them. Is this helping, Faith? So if the desire that arises, I've got to have this, that's the ego, that is viewing and interpreting desire from the point of view of lack. But if the desire is perceived from the point of view of infinite abundance, of the infinite potential of self, then the desire does not mean lack. It means fulfillment, and the feeling, the experience of desire itself becomes pleasurable. Even if it doesn't fulfill itself. Sometimes they don't. It's the experience of life. It's the juice of life. Am I getting anywhere? Thank you for that question, Faith. It's beautiful, and it helps me to illustrate the very practical, everyday meaning of non-duality, because it gets put in such abstract terms, which is, in fact, the people that were delivering me the most nasty comments were all trying to make that kind of point, and pointed to teachers who were nothing's here, there's no one, nothing exists. Well, currently undergoing name change. Is the video choppy for anyone else? Not sure, it's my internet. No, it's not your internet. It's a mixture of all the different piece parts here, and YouTube and a bunch of different stuff. So there is a little bit of delay, and there may be a little bit of choppiness. I've got it going at 60 frames a second, so I've got it as fast as I can go. So hopefully it's not too interfering. In reference to the teaching, there's no credit to the teacher. No, not ultimately, but let's see. But you can't help but love the teacher, right? I love Muji, my teacher. I love Nisargadatta. You can't help but feel that appreciation, that love, because the teaching needed to have a form through which it could be expressed. Truth had to have a mouth to speak. Okay? And so now the teacher and the teaching become one, but the teacher is not an entity in and of itself. Right? There's a beautiful Chinese saying that when you're drinking the water, remember the one who dug the well. I'm just overwhelmed with love and gratitude for the teachers I've had. But I also realize simultaneously that it's always been the one teacher, the Sadguru, the truth in me, that simply had to appear in a form talking to me, which allowed me to actually take in what was in fact emerging from the true me. But it had to pierce the veil of the false me. And so there's just the most natural human love for the teacher as well. And that too is just kind of comes with the territory. It's part of the deal. So it's, again, none of these things I say are to diminish anything. It's just to recognize, to take the form that it's appearing, which we call the teacher, and reconnect it back. Because if the truth wasn't there and the teaching wasn't there, how could there be a teacher? So the teacher is simply the form that the truth of the teaching truth is taking. And if you look at it in terms of the person, right, the teacher only appears with the teaching. Right? So when there's no teaching happening, I'm not a teacher. It's not an identity. Right? It is a function. It is a role. It is the teaching happening. Right? So it's okay. You can be grateful to the teacher. Crispin, hi Crispin, how are you? How are you, good sir? Nazrin, hi G. 6 months ago I was burning with curiosity to know who I am. Last couple of months it's all shut down. I'm not seeking anymore. Why is this? Thanks. It's just part of the ebb and flow. And it's part of the, there can be an intense interest and then we get distracted, right? It's okay. Don't make any kind of deal about it. The very fact that you notice it, right? You're going, oh, I don't have that same kind of intensity. Okay. So sometimes it's intense, sometimes it's not. May I ask a simple question? Do you want to know who you are? So it doesn't matter what form it takes. There are some times when it so overwhelms you, it's the only thing you want. Other times it seems to fall into the periphery. But when I ask you directly, at any given moment, do you want to know who you are? Your answer will be yes. Just stay with that. Don't worry about the ebb and flow, because the mind gets distracted. 1 minute, oh, I'm totally into this. The next minute, nowhere to be found, right? So don't be concerned. Really, don't be concerned. Right? Feed it as much as you can. Just keep remembering, right, everything else depends on how I view myself. Every experience I have, every relationship I have, everything depends on how I see myself. So knowing who I am, whether I'm ecstatically engaged or not, is the most important thing there is. That is the most important thing in my life. And if there are times when life distracts me, so be it. It doesn't change what my priorities are. It just means that I got distracted from my own priorities for a minute. But I'm back. So never beat yourself up, ever. St. Paul beautifully put it, there's no temptation taken you that is not common to man. So, not to worry, dear friends. Mary, thank you for more clarity on the nervous system and ego. You're welcome. It's such a simple understanding. It explains so much. John Lucas this time. John GP, so do we wait in the state of being, and if self-realization happens or not, the I am cannot go beyond that. That is correct. There's no place beyond that. So you just keep going back and visiting it. That's what Nisargadatta did. He said that's what his teacher told him. You're not who you think you are. Focus on the I am. That's what he did. Now, Nisargadatta was not somebody who could go off into the mountains. He had sons and a wife and a family. He owned 4 little shops that made cigarettes around Mumbai, which I think was still called Bombay at that time. And so what did he do? He took care of business. And every spare moment he had, he simply brought his attention constantly back to the sense I am. And that confirmation. Oh, I am. I really do exist. I don't know what that means. I don't know anything about it, but I am. Right? And that sense of being, that's what he did. 3.5 years later, fully enlightened being. So it doesn't mean you have to abandon life, right? It doesn't mean you have to not do anything but that, right? It means that you just put your priorities. What is a priority in any given moment? And you'll find it can be difficult sometimes. Sometimes the mind says, oh, come on, let's just have a beer and watch Netflix. And you can do that, right? Go have a beer and watch Netflix. And then, but just watch and watch some more. And notice that when you do, just go to that simple place of just an awareness of your own being. There's a quiet there that you can't find anywhere else. It's quite extraordinary and quite delicious. And you'll want to go back there. But the mind, remember, the mind does not want to go back there because the mind isn't, there's no mind there. It is the end of the ego, right? There's no ego there because the ego can't survive without thought. Right? And this is prior to all thought. It's just the sense of being. And then alone with that sense of being, you inevitably go, what is aware of that sense of being? I am. Who am I? And yes, that's as far as you can go. At that point, you're knocking on the door and you're looking in the right direction. And from that moment on, it's pure grace. Effort has to stop, right? Because if awakening is the result of effort, it means it has a cause. It's not eternal. And it's going to come and go. So it cannot be the result of any effort. It takes effort to get there. But once you're there, it can be an effort to keep coming back there, to sustain there. But beyond that, it's pure grace. It's got nothing to do with you, because that you cannot go beyond that threshold. When I think it was Atmananda who said, enlightenment is really great. Too bad you're not there to enjoy it. Well, you are, but not the you think you are. The one knocking at the door doesn't go through the door. As Muji put it beautifully, the one who starts the inquiry does not finish the inquiry, but is finished by the inquiry. When you're simply at that place, knocking at the door, focusing the attention, it is burning up millennia of karma. Because the karma depends upon the sense of being a separate self. It doesn't even have to be a sense of the same separate self you were in other lifetimes. But that which is beyond the sense of separate self is burning all that karma away. It is burning the seeds that are resisting this. So a lot is happening there that you're not aware of. And it's happening effortlessly. It's not happening because of your doing. Your doing becomes less and less and less, and being becomes more and more and more. Beautiful, beautiful question, John. Thank you. Currently undergoing a name change says, amazing crow sounds, lovely. Yeah, aren't they? Magpies are beautiful too. And I hadn't really seen magpies before because I didn't have them in the other places that I'd lived. There's a lot of them here. David and Elaine, dear G, thank you for your beautiful and profound answer. It's difficult to adequately describe the sense of recognition by which your words are known. It's like sipping from a cup of sweet nectar. Yes, that recognition. You know, where does that come from? It's such a mystery. I know. How do I know? I don't know. I just know. And it's unmistakable. To the mind, it's completely baffling. And yet you just know. How do you know? Well, you know the truth because you are the truth. This is you recognizing you in form. It is a sweet nectar. Nectar of the gods. Whoop, what? Oh, hit the wrong button there. Phil Heath. Nothing wrong with an old shoe. They can be very comfortable. Indeed. Indeed. I've got a... Well, this sweater's old. I'm not going to let go of it anytime soon. And hell, I'm old, right? Not going to let him go anytime soon. I'm kind of the old shoe. Laird says, I haven't been live with you, GP, but I watch all your satsangs during my meditations. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Laird. Mary, currently undergoing a name change. Sometimes it's choppy for me, too. Yeah. Do I have any internet video experts out there who can sort out this technology for me? I've kind of reached my peak. David says, this is David, by the way. I tend to ask the questions, but almost also very much on behalf of Elaine and myself. Love and blessings from both of us. Oh, love and blessings to you guys. Currently, thank you, Mary. In the beginning, I was worried about it, but it's a consistent 0.5s break. 5 millisecond break. Not so bad, thankfully. Was it just kind of like a choppy thing? Right. Yeah, I don't know. Half a second. Half a second. 500 millisecond break. That sucks. I need a real video guy. Mary says, love your answer to Luca, as I find myself doing the same. Yeah. It's part of the deal, because you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? We don't want to throw life out and think that that's how we're going to get to non-duality. If non-duality is what I say it is, a comprehensive description and explanation of reality as it is, it must include all phenomena. We can't just say, well, that phenomenon is an illusion, it doesn't exist, rule it out. That's not an explanation. That explains away, it doesn't explain. If this is the truth, it is the truth. And it has to be able to take in every bit of phenomenon experience and show you what it is and why it is. Right? Otherwise, it's not the truth. It's just another theory. So, Rosalind, you're an awesome teacher. Thank you. When I started watching a few years ago, I must admit I was a bit judgmental and critical of you. Well, you weren't alone. You know, everybody teaches going to teach with their own style, from their own background, you know, from the things that matter, but their own personality, right? The truth shines through a personality. It isn't the personality, right? But it takes the form, right? A song takes the form, whatever instrument it gets played on, or whoever happens to be singing it. So I know that, you know, this particular personality may not be appealing to everyone, and the like. And, you know, I've got close to 2,000 videos on Vimeo now. About 700 on YouTube on a variety of subjects over 10 years, right? So clearly something I did 8, 9, 10 years ago is not going to have the same degree of clarity, the same degree, the same power of expression as I do now, because we develop. But I'm glad you like me now. That makes me happy. I'm not getting another nasty comment. You know, obviously not for everyone. Lamont, what's up, G? What's up, Lamont? Lamont from St. Louis. Listening, not watching from my car. Well, good. Then if there's a choppy video, it doesn't matter. I'm glad you're not watching in your car, by the way. Just listen. Rosalind, as released my own ego judgments and criticism about myself, who I saw you being transformed as being perfect exactly as you are. Oh, thank you. Yes, I am, as are you. Right? We all are. Right? This is the perfect form. Right? for you. That is for the self to express itself as you, and it's expressing itself as you, not trying to make you into something else. Why? It's infinite potential. It's got infinite resources. And so this particular form GP or Rosalind, Lamont, Mary, whatever, whoever, right, is exactly the perfect form for the self, through which the self expresses itself in a way that can be expressed in no other way. This is the celebration of the uniqueness of the individual, at the same time not identifying yourself as the individual. You are the self expressing itself in a form, which means that form is the most beautiful, wonderful thing in the world, and it is not separate from that through that for which it is the vehicle of expression. Without that vehicle, there's no expression, right? Without a piano, there's no. What's the pianist going to do? I mean, this actually ennobles and makes sacred human life when it's free from ego, because it's not self-acting, it's not self-identifying. It is the vehicle through which the self expresses itself. But the self is not limited to that. You are not limited to this form, and that's the great freedom. But not being limited to this form allows you to take full advantage of this form and do with it whatever it can possibly do, for as long as it can do it, until it's no more. Thank you, Rosalind. Isn't that funny? How as we stop criticizing ourselves, we stop criticizing others. Right? See, because if I judge myself about something, somebody else who exudes the quality that I am judging of myself, I inevitably am going to judge them. Because I've taken this position. Anything outside of that position has got to be criticized and judged, and that's wrong, and you shouldn't be doing that, whether it be me or someone else. And it gets more intense because these self-judgments are really artificial. They're laid upon who you really are, which is totally innocent, and we're simply telling part of me I'm judging. I can't be who I am. And then if I see somebody else being that, because in fact, what I really want is the freedom to be fully myself, right? And without limits, and to fully accept myself, to accept this form as it is, all the beauty of it. And so yes, as all those judgments fall away, and those aspects of ourselves that we judged before are now seen to be beautiful gifts, powers, well, so the judgment of others falls away as well. This is compassion. Right? Discovering yourself really frees everybody. Beautiful. Linus, nothing to add. I feel from what a good place everything comes from. Yes, and that good place everything is coming from is you. Gotta back up here a bit because sometimes things jump ahead on me. Yes, that good place. the crows are right here now. It's Satsang. That does happen, by the way. Oh, he's looking right at me. Yeah. Yeah, the good place they're coming from is you. Where else are they arising from? You are what is. You are the reality. That's what it means to be in touch with the sense of I am. I really am. I exist. I am not an appearance of something else. I am not a hallucination. I am not an illusion. I may have illusions. God may have all sorts of illusions. But something real has to be there in order to have an illusion. I'm that real. I am that reality. I am what is. And everything must arise from what is. It can't arise from what is not. You are what is. Everything arises from there. This one crow is very curious. Keeps looking me over. Mary, GP, I'm seeing how unconscious guilt is playing in my energy field. It feels so difficult releasing. Any suggestions? And yes, please make a CD of your beautiful music. Um, I will. I don't think I'm going to make CDs. They're actually quite expensive to have pressed and the artwork and everything. I'll just make them available as MP3s if you don't mind. I did do them before, but nobody actually even buys them anymore. So, okay. Guilt is playing in my energy field and feels so difficult releasing. So stop trying to release it. I can detect that what you mean by the word release is get rid of. To release means take your hands off, right? I'm releasing it. Now, if I'm trying to get rid of it, I maybe open my hands, but now I'm pushing. I'm still quite in contact, right? I'm not grabbing onto it, right? So it's in your energy field. So what? Right. Is that a problem? Unless you listen to the mind that says, got to get rid of this guilt energy, right? Then now I have to get rid of it. Now I've got a relationship with it. It's something I've got to get rid of, which is like flypaper. Now it's stuck on you, right? But it can't stick to you. Doesn't have hands. It's not sentient. It's not an entity that can grab and hold on. Only you can hold on. And believe it or not, there's glue on our hands. So if we try to push it away, right, it sticks. Right? You are aware of this energy in your energy field, right? But you're aware of the energy field, and you're aware of this energy in it, this particular energy form, in case guilt, right? Now, where are you in this? You're not the energy field, and you're not the guilt. So you stay here. And let it be there. It may be there for a while, so what? Right? But eventually, because it's not self-sustained, that energy will dissipate and just fade away. You can't give life to it. I think, oh, I'm guilty, how do I overcome my guilt? Or, this is annoying, I need to get rid of it. Either position you take towards it, you establish a relationship with it, and therefore you empower it. If it's just noise, like a radio playing in another room, you don't give it any power whatsoever. And your attention naturally just eventually filters out and ignores it. And then it will just be purged from the energy field. Right? Know who you are. Know where you are looking from. And now you are free. You don't need it to be gone for you to be free. Matter of fact, it's way better to be free with it still there, because then you know you're really free, and not just, if I'm moral because of a lack of opportunity, then I'm not really moral. I'm only moral when I make the choice when the opportunity is there, right? Then I know I'm moral, because I've chosen rightly. So it's okay that this stuff is there. Right? There's you, there's the energy field, and then there's this particular wave in the energy field. Now, where are you? Are you the guilt? Are you even the energy field? Or are you the witness of it? Is the witness guilty? Or is the witness simply witnessing the energy of guilt? Is the sky cloudy? Or are clouds just temporarily passing through it? Great, Mary. Tatiana! Hello, hello, hello. Sarah! Hello! Sorry I'm late. I was tapping with Patricia and we forgot about the time. Thrilled to be here, Sarah in France. Oh, I'm so glad you're tapping with Patricia. Fantastic. Being a good student. Well, you should be a good student. You're a professor. Thank you, dear G. Faith. Thank you, Faith. Sarah says, see you just fine. Good. Mary, I love you as a teacher, GP. That's why I posted that about the teacher, because you and your voice soothe me. And I give credit to you for your transmission to me and us all. Yes. That's as it should be, gratitude for the people who have touched us and who have helped us, and gratitude for the ones who have helped us see ourselves as we truly are. What greater gift? What fun to give and what fun to get. So, yeah, by all means, you know, love. This is all about love. And, it doesn't have to be an abstract, perfect love. It's very human. It's very, every form of love, be it simple appreciation, be it passion, be it romance, be it familial or brotherly love or sisterly love. It's all love. Those are just the different, those are just the different songs, right? And it's all music. Every form that love takes is love. And, the appreciation, yes. In drinking the water, remember the one who dug the well. Tatiana, love to all of you. Without all of you, I'd not had G and my teacher. Oh, beautiful. Himunk, a friend of mine has been terrorizing me about paranormal things lately. How real are they, and how common are their occurrences? Well, everything is as real as you make it and nothing more, right? The only thing that is real is you. Now, when I use the word real, I don't mean it in the sense that of I really experienced that. I'm really experiencing this tree. Is the tree real? Now, for me, real and truth are the same thing. And what is truth? Truth is that which is unchanging. It is the same yesterday, today, and forever. It is the same everywhere. The truth does not require anybody to believe it in order to be true. It is unchanging, it is self-existent, it is self-validating, and it is self-luminous. Therefore, it is the self. Everything else is an appearance. So is that a tree? That's a convention we agree on, right? That very same energy of the tree 100 years from now, completely decayed, and it could be a flower, right? It could be the zucchini that I have, or somebody eats that night, and then it's not the zucchini anymore, right? I mean, talk about alchemy, right? This process that turns that double cheeseburger with bacon you had last night into brain cells. What? Come on. So what is it? What is the thing? So what we're seeing in the world around us is not the reality. It's a constant flow of transformation. What is, right? And as a constant flow of transformation, it's not self-existent. No form is self-existent. It's a conformance to a particular environment, where the environment comes from. It's this endless chain. It's one of the things that Buddha recognized, that this chain of causation had no beginning. Therefore, it's completely a projection of the mind. So all experiences, whether we call it normal or paranormal or extrasensory, are simply experiences we're having. So are they real? In my sense of reality, no, they are an experience. And they come and go. Therefore, they're not reality by the definition of being truth. What doesn't come and go? You. Because you have to be there for everything to come and go too. Right? So even the paranormal experience, the experience of angels, fifth dimensional beings, do they not exist? I'm not going to say it like that. It's not like it's a hallucination. Right? What about you and me right now? Or somebody, a person sitting right next to you, having a conversation with? I mean, that's pretty remarkable in and of itself. This self-conscious communication, this sharing of energy. We consciously can feel an energetic connection where there's a level of communication going on that is extrasensory, right? It is beyond what's simply being detected by my senses. But that's so every day, and we call that normal. And so something that falls outside of that we call paranormal. Things like a near-death experience, or things like that. The veil between us and all other dimensions is completely constructed by the mind, the sense of separation. And so something that we don't normally experience happens. We go, ooh, look, and then we imagine other dimensions, all sorts of other things. What are they? Experience. There is no limit on experience. The self is infinite potential. Right? So it's simply our conventions in the mind that say this is paranormal, this is normal. Right? Now, given that, well, people think then there's these entities in other dimensions that are getting me, right? We do that with the ego, right? The ego is this entity that's attacking me. If it wasn't for the ego, I'd be rich and handsome, right? But it's the ego. It's the ego. The devil made me do it, right? As if it's this thing. People are afraid of the devil, this entity, this evil force, right? That's going to get me, right? Where's the evil force? Find the evil force outside of my belief in it. You are the truth. You're the arbiter of truth. So whatever you say is true becomes true. And if you really say it's true and believe it, it becomes your experience. And so we imagine these other beings somewhere, some benevolent, some malevolent, right? And therefore we have the experience of them as if they were actually real entities, right? But the same is true of somebody you're having a conversation with. How do you know they exist outside of your own perception? You don't, because you can't step outside of your perception. So how do you validate anything as being objectively real, absolutely true, self-existent? Well, you have to go to the one place where you can find that which is self-existent. And that's you. The only thing you know for sure is I am. That's all you know for sure. We want to know other things for sure, but that's the mind. So the mind grabs onto a belief, an idea, says, oh, this is really true, right? Because that makes it feel safe, right? And so it now invests in what is a perception, the quality of it being an objective reality, and now I'm afraid of a reality that I myself have just created. Thou shalt not make unto thyself any graven image. That's the real meaning of that. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, the I, the true self. That's what that really means. There's no other entity. Find the one entity. Find what is there, be it benevolent or malevolent, be it some paranormal thing trying to get me, or an angel or an archangel trying to bless me, right? Find the substance. Find that which is. Where are you going to look? Except at the only place you absolutely know is. You. Nothing you experience you can validate, because you can't step outside of your perception and verify the existence of something separate from yourself. No one can do that. So then what do? You go to what you do know. That which is myself. And, not even the most clever, demonic, devilish super being in the universe can convince you that you exist if you don't. You can fill me with all sorts of hallucinations and illusions and all sorts of experiences, the reality of which I cannot verify, but I cannot deny my own existence. That is indubitable. So that's where you go. I am. Everything else, I don't know. I am. That's the truth. From there, all truth must arise. Does that help, Himank? And if a friend of mine is terrorizing me, he's not going to be my friend for very long. So let him go terrorize somebody else. Heather Lentz, really appreciate your teaching style, G. It's simple and easy, and I'm getting it quickly. There's a loveliness there, so stress naturally falls away, even when a lot is still going on around me. That's beautiful. I love hearing that, because so much we want to find something that we can do to make all the stuff go around us shut up and go away, right? But that's not where our strength is, right? I don't know I have a trigger until it's triggered, so I want it to be triggered. Just got triggered. Great. Now, when I can see it as a trigger, and I don't unconsciously just go with the response that the trigger would normally would normally trigger. And instead, I stay there very consciously aware of the trigger, but not acting it out in the way that the behavior had normally been pre-programmed to. That's where I become free of it. The trigger loses its power. And now I am free from conditioning. Well, I'm realizing the freedom from the conditioning. The fact of the matter is you are always free from conditioning, but it needs to be realized. Oh, you figured out how to chat as you. So this is the Heather that normally comes on as Jessie. Hi, Heather. You got your own space now. Cool. You got your own place. Mary, so dying to... So, where'd you go, Mary? You appreciate your teaching style. Oh, dying to yourself, become nothing, will show you are everything. Yes. You are now fully your live self. Yes. Dying to yourself means dying to the ego, right? Or that is disidentification with anything external to you. And it cannot, it's like, well, what's going to be left? Well, nothing but you. That's the point. Right? The only thing be left is that which cannot be taken away. And if it cannot be taken away, it's the eternal truth. It is the eternal truth of your being. And you can't take the eternal truth away. And the eternal truth isn't something that started now. You realize it's always been that way, because that's eternal. So it didn't start at any moment whatsoever. It has always been. And the realization happens in a moment that you have always been. That's the beautiful paradox of awakening. So, dying to yourself, yeah, it can seem kind of, dying to myself, I don't want to die. But you can't die. You're simply disidentifying with everything you've identified with, and that can be uncomfortable. I'm so used to being a certain way, and I think a certain way, and I believe certain things, and all of a sudden, they're becoming apparently not so true. There's definitely a feeling that goes, oh, wow, okay, well, what's true now? Well, you're on the path. What's true? You. And you are the only thing that is true. But not the you think yourself to be. The you actually are. The you actually are is eternal. It's always been the truth. Right? And time is seen to be simply an illusion. Just the flow of events. Right? Being witnessed from the eternal now. Because where else are you? Rosalind, loved how you spoke of knocking on the door. I just sang Bob Dylan's Knocking on Heaven's Door at the Ojai Center for Spiritual Living this morning. Oh, so beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful song. Yes, knock on heaven's door. Yes, knock on heaven's door, right? And heaven will open. How can it not? Well, actually, God will open. Because God and heaven are one. Mary says, the choppy stuff has subsided. Okay, that's good to know. But it does come and go. No Japanese picture clear, blah, 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 where are we? Boom, 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 boom. Sounded good. 2,000 videos on Vimeo. Where are they? Sarah, you have access to most of them. The stuff on Vimeo is all of my paid courses over the last 10 years. All the stuff that I charge for access. The free stuff is on YouTube, right? But the courses that I charge for, that help me maintain the free stuff, those are all on Vimeo. And since you've taken so many courses of them, I think you have access to probably most of them. But they go all the way back, even courses I don't even do anymore. Heather says, I love how you've interwoven your experience and knowledge. Really enjoy your spin on things. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It's kind of the way the vehicle, it's come. Anyway, currently undergoing a name change. If it's not too late, by the time you read this, GP, not too late. I asked my sister if she wanted to ask anything to you. She asked how to feel worthy. she's not into non-duality, but she's heard some J. Krishnamurti and Eckhart Tolle before. Well, those are non-dual teachers, but they too have a nice human spin about them, which I really like. Both of them do. And Eckhart Tolle, I talk about the nervous system, he talks about the pain body. We're talking about the same thing, and he took a similar approach that I did in terms of trying to make it very practical and human, and not just abstract non-duality. How to feel worthy. Well, first off, let me make something really clear. It may be hard for you to take. Love to know what your sister's name is, unless she's going through a name change too. Remember that the feeling of being unworthy and whether you actually are unworthy or not are two different things. Right? At some point in your life, you kind of adapted the nervous system, responded to the way it was being treated with the conclusion that, well, obviously I'm being treated this way because I'm not worthy. Remember, the mind, the nervous system, has to come up with a reasonable explanation of why things are the way they are. It just can't live in uncertainty. So let's say your parents diminished you, right? Or worse, ignored you, right? Didn't make you important, didn't make you a priority. Took care of your needs, your basic human needs and things like that, but never really acknowledged you, right? Now that hurts the child. The child is completely dependent upon the parent. And so if the parents aren't treating me as I'm valuable, the nervous system has no choice but to conclude it's because I'm not valuable. It can't conclude it's because they're dullards and they can't see me, right? I'm really valuable, but they can't see it. Ignorant doofuses. Boy, things are going to change when I grow up and I get out here on my own. You can't do that, right? They're gods. Whatever they say is right. So if they're treating me as less than worthy, I conclude I am less than worthy. It then becomes programmed into the nervous system as a fact, and it will then start creating the various scenarios and experiences, thoughts and feelings that confirm it. Because if I know I'm not worthy, and that's why I'm not getting what I need from the environment, I'm set. I'm good. I'm safe. Now, of course, the truth is you are. Right? And that truth cannot be put down. And so that truth, which is now suppressed by this layer of belief that I'm not worthy, which needs to be there in order to feel safe in the environment, because it can't put forth a sense of worthiness because it'll just get slammed. So that goes underground, right? So now your whole identity is formed around being unworthy. And at the same time, there's something inside that says something's wrong. And it can be simply just a craving to feel worthy, right? Recognize what it is. You were trained to feel unworthy. That doesn't mean you are. And then just let yourself begin to open to the possibility that maybe I am, and have just never really believed it, never been treated that way. What if I am worthy? And just ask the nervous system. This is something I use tapping for, by the way. Just ask the nervous system, you know what? Look around, check it out. Let's see if it's really true. If it's really true, fine. I accept it. What can I say? If I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. The truth is the truth, right? But if it's not really true, if it's an assumption that I've simply believed and never questioned, I want to know that. This will shift your relationship for just assuming it into a relationship of, let's find out what's true. And yeah, the feeling of unworthiness is there, but why is it there? Well, you were programmed to feel that way, right? You get a dog from the shelter that's been mistreated, and you just scratch your head, and it cowers. because it's expecting the hand to come down. So, right? It takes a long time for it to disassociate this from I'm going to get hit. But given enough time and enough love and enough reward, that sense of anticipating being hurt will fall away, and the dog won't react anymore when it sees this. It'll be disassociated. So that feeling of not being worthy is just a feeling. We need to explore to see whether it's really true. And it's a real common one, especially with women. Because women have been suppressed and regarded as second class for a very long time. And in some circles, they still are. Right? Fundamentalist Christians and the like, women are secondary. I mean, the vehicles for having babies. Still, a lot of people don't believe that women should be leading in business. They shouldn't be in politics. I heard even one, she's actually a congressman in the U.S., said that the man should decide who to vote for, and the man should have 2 votes, one for him and his wife. That he should just vote for himself. This is 2020. Somebody's saying this, right? So culturally, you can see that there's a lot of stuff that's been laid on that is not true, right? But we internalize it. When we're very young and vulnerable, we internalize these things even though it isn't true. Right? And this is the stuff we begin to pierce through. And this can help you. EFT can help you with it. And the like. I've got a lot of videos on EFT and classes and the like to help you work through that. So you can do this, and we don't have to go into non-duality at all about it. So currently undergoing a name change. I hope that works. Works for your sister. Bless her heart. She's deeply loved and appreciated. You're magnificent beyond what you can imagine. Jay, a late hello, but it feels like an eternity since I saw you live. LOL. Mind is all over the place, but a wonderful, deeper peace in the midst of it. Perfect. I'm not in a hurry to get rid of the mind being all over the place. Right? You know, I'm not one of these, we got to get rid of the mind. No, not at all. Right? When you're on this path, the mind becomes your exercise partner. It's your sparring partner, right? You need somebody to spar with in order to become more strong. So I'm not quick to make this stuff go away, right? I want you strong. I want you so strong that it doesn't matter whether it's there or not. Then it can go away. I'm driving also, listening to Satsang. Great. Fantastic. Mary said, thanks for the answer on guilt. Great. Sarah, gee, thanks to you, I am even grateful for the people who trigger me. Yeah, amen, sister. They help me grow tremendously, and they don't trigger me anymore. How about that? I appreciate them, and they make me laugh at myself. Now that's freedom. That's freedom. We're never going to get rid of annoying, obnoxious people. Hell, our country's led by them. We're just not going to do it, right? As I said, just this week, I got all sorts of really nasty comments. What are you going to do, right? Beautiful, right? Did I feel something? Yeah. Oh, didn't want that. Did I have to act on it? I did. Oftentimes those comments that I don't do anything because there's some humanity in it. When they're just vile, I just go away, right? But that's the freedom, right? But I don't want that to stop happening, right? I want to be free. If something happens and I'm triggered, I want to know about that. I don't want that to just be under the surface. And remember, you don't know you got a trigger till it's triggered. They're latent. They're in a nascent state. There's certain functions in a program, like like a word processing program, Pages or Word or something like that. The average person uses about 5% of the functions that are there. They're still there, but you'd never know it until you do something that triggers that program. We want them all triggered. I want absolute clean slate. There's only one way to know that that program is there, and that is it has to get triggered. So, the next time somebody does something and you don't laugh about it, you do feel it, you go, yes, good, thank you. Thank you. You showed me something I hadn't seen before. I'm now even freer than I was before. But of course, You can go to the ultimate of freedom, which is the you that was never programmed in the first place. Remember, the conditioning, the reactions, the triggers are the nervous system. They're not you. You're the consciousness that is aware of them. And thank God we don't have to get rid of all of the triggers in order to be free. We just have to know that they are triggers. They apply to the nervous system and not to me. Now I'm free. Now I know who I am. The pure, enlightened, infinite witness. The witness of myself. Mary said, I had the experience of stepping out of the so-called matrix, and I saw that everything was happening like a movie that was played on a screen. The food I was eating at the time had no taste nor reality to it. It was all an illusion. It took some time to get back into the body. It felt like a simulation. Yes, that's a step. Eventually, it'll feel real because it'll be reflecting your reality. But when you're in the inward journey, right, where we're moving away from that which is not us, yes, it's going to feel like the Matrix. It's going to feel like, wait a minute, what is real here? Right? Well, what does real mean? Unchanging, self-luminous, self-existent, self-validating. That's real. Everything else is an appearance. So coming out of the matrix simply means seeing the matrix as the matrix. Once you see it as the matrix and you're no longer fooled by it, you're free. And you can enjoy it. Right? You don't have to get rid of it. You enjoy the movie and you know it's a movie. Right? Happy day. Wonderful. Himok, it does. Gee, thank you so much. You're welcome, Himok. John Sheehan, AGP, and all from Ireland. Catch us on video tonight. Night. Yeah, you guys, it's late a lot of places. Thank you for Satsang. You're the best. Oops, let's pull you back down. So, sit on the wire. Best love from Germany. Thanks, Anja. George Sampler. Hey, GP. Greetings from Sweden. How are you? I'm trying to grasp infinity and what it means that our minds are finite. Well, mind in and of itself, if it's seen as simply an aspect of infinite consciousness, it's not finite. The thoughts in it are finite, right? Because they're a boundary. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a thought. There'd be nothing there. You can't grasp infinity. How can you? Because the word grasp means I'm trying to conceive of it. But any conception is going to put a boundary around it. You can't. You cannot grasp infinity. You can only be infinity. And recognize that it's simply what is. And everything is arising out of infinity. Right? And there is no limit on what can be. There's no limit on what can appear. It's the infinite potential for all form, and it never stops, and it's inexhaustible, and it never runs out of ideas, and it never runs out of something new. That is the infinite intelligence. And when mind is seen not as as a personal egoic thing, but as the creative power of the self, then you see that mind and intelligence and the self are one. And even the idea of mind begins to just fall away. Now, you'll hear me and many spiritual teachers talking about the mind. What we're really talking about is the psychological habits. We're not talking about, right? When mind or intelligence or creative power has been shorn of all of its limitations, it merges with the infinite. And you see that the wave and the ocean are one. But you cannot grasp the infinite. You can only be it. And it's the most sweet place to just kind of fall into. I am the infinite. For the I am is the life and substance of everything. The I am is infinity. Everything is simply an instance, a moment, an expression, a manifestation of I am. And the I am is forever. Ava, thank you for the wonderful experience. Love you, Ava. David, thank you again for Satsang, GP. So deeply and gratefully appreciated. And with that, it's good night. Very good night. Nasty comments recently, said Jay. Yes, I had so nasty I actually deleted them and blocked the people. Yeah. That doesn't happen. That's never happened before. Right? It's always been, yeah, I get some nasty stuff, but yeah, big deal. Right? He's crazy. Look in his eyes. I mean, really, stuff like that. Right? But these were just, there was nothing in them. It was all just, yeah, it was just a venting. So there was nothing even there to offer. So, yeah. So George says, thank you. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, George. Yeah, it's a hard thing to let go of, to just be it. Just notice how every moment that it's a hard thing to let go of this the idea of the infinite and just be the infinite. But just notice how every moment is spontaneously appearing. Well, where is it coming from? And notice that it's inexhaustible where it's coming from. There seems to be no end to it. That's because there isn't. There is no end to it. So infinity isn't this huge thing. It is simply this. It's the nature of this moment. Wait. GP, my sister is writing something. Okay. Sarah, it's late, but I'm going to Vimeo. You won't find anything on Vimeo. I don't have. It's not public. It's all private there, right? Right. So you're not going to find it. You're not going to be able to list something out and see something you haven't seen before. Sarah, you're so cute. Casavadas, hey, from India. Hello, Casavadas. Carolina Piquito. Hi, I'm the sister that asked about how to be worthy. Thank you for your answer. Was one out of many. Your answer made me restart thinking about the questions I have. Beautiful. Beautiful. Wonderful, Carolina. Carolina Piquito. Little Carolina. Love it. WGP and the collective. Thank you, October Paul. All right, everybody. Look at that. A little closer to 2 hours than normal. I guess I solved my battery problem because it looks like still full charge. Yay. One technology problem solved. Also the microphone problem solved. Yay. How can I access your content on Vimeo? It's all in my classes. That's what I use video for. I use that for all of the private stuff, right? And the public stuff I put on YouTube. So all the classes you have that you are watching, you already have, are all hosted on Vimeo. So it's just the streaming service. It's not another distribution point for me. So, but I was just kind of surprised when I looked, and I thought it was like 1,900 some of them there. But it's been over 10 years now. I've been doing it. So anyway, all right, everybody. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you for being here with me during Satsang. Thank you for all of your really piercing questions, your heartfelt questions. I'm just really grateful for you all. Yeah, I'm grateful to be able to do this. I'm grateful that everything in this old body keeps functioning so that I can, and that there are hearts and minds out there that want to commune with the truth. But remember, you are the truth. Right? It's the truth of you. So it's self-discovery. Satsang is self-discovery. It's not a truth out there that you grasp. It is the truth of you, which you are. So, until next week, love you all. Namaste.